strategic color photography. It's intoxicating, beautiful. Then the complacency starts seeping in. It drags you into the gutter and makes you lazy and broken. But one day I woke up and I needed to know if it was me or the color. Grant said, when you photograph people in color, you photograph their clothes. When you photograph people in black and white, you photograph their souls. Now I know everyone's soul is a deep, deep black. I'm no fool. I had to come prepared. I had to ask my source for an array of film depending on how bad the situation could be. No more incidents like with the Pro 400H. As usual, my source was elusive. They left this note. If you want contrast, nothing. So extreme, hard to tame. The deepest black, the whitest white. Mid-range is elusive but rewarding to find. And on that note, I have to agree with them. Ferrania P30, it's almost as contrasty as they get, at least for a negative film. But those blacks, they sing. The whites, they sing even more. And when you put them together, something magic happens. Fellini played this magic in some of his greatest hits. What astounded me even more is the source left me with a roll of Ferrania P30 in 120, newly available and long rumored. This might be the ace up my sleeve. But there's a new thing that's even stronger. And of course it was. Ferrania Orto, orthographic film, 50 ISO, even slower than P30. Very similar characteristics, but with the classic ortho contrast. Have a feeling though, this may be a little too exotic for my needs. My client has very specific tastes. However, I might be using this one for myself, especially like how the skies render. My source always likes to show me something different, new, a variety of options. Some people think black and white is just black and white, but there's a whole different world in there. The values. It's not all about hue, it's not all about saturation. Contrast matters. Composition matters. With that in mind, I asked for a safe one, just in case. That's where my source told me about Fujifilm Acros 2. Once left for dead, this great film was reborn a few years ago. Everyone thinks it's just like all the other T-grain films, but we know it's a practitioner of the dark arts. Just a little darker than T-Max, a little more character. To quote the source, I call this one T-Max After Dark. It's hard to explain, but if you shoot it yourself, you'll find out. Of course, we had to try all these films out. And this is a point where we just kept taking photos, and I forgot to move the camera, so I missed all the BTS. But if you were there, you would have gotten lost in the movement too. You're playing in dangerous waters here. I wouldn't want you to get hurt, but just in case, there's one more film type in there. Just don't open it unless you need it. And there she was, like a pack of forgotten FP100C in the back of the fridge. It's you, NIkonita.
Go ahead, detective. Tell me to go back to him. Tell me to overexpose Portrait 400 at 200. Tell me the pastel tones are what I really need.
No messing around here. You need the yam, the good stuff, the highest of contrast. If you're not careful, you're going to be shooting Leica digitals and Fuji digitals, trying expired film. Next thing you know, you're going to be shooting digicams, the domain of the truly depraved.
First up, the safe bet, Pan F50 Plus. Confession. I've only shot one roll of Pan F50 Plus in my life before this. I let it sit around for so long the latent image completely disappeared. And that's how I discovered the latent image is incredibly delicate. When you shoot it, it needs to be developed immediately. That's pretty common knowledge of this film, but this film is a little less common. Maybe the answer to Panatomic X. It's hard to tell, but it's nice, even with the weird spots I got with my development. Possibly because this is expired. Beautiful tones, nice contrast, good midtones, maybe too good in this case. I could tell something was going on. She wasn't sold on the Pan F. Before I start on the P30, I've got to take care of something even more important. I've got to open this emergency package. She's experiencing the early stages of expirationitis. She's going to seek expired film to fill a void that will leave her empty and broken, clinging to a faded relic of the past. Here goes nothing. Kodak Technical Pan. It's not always meant for portrait photography, but it can be used for that, for its extremely fine grain. Shy of going to a litho film, you're not going to get much contrastier than this. Even though it expired in 1985, when Stan developed in Rodinal for an hour, it still looked beautiful. The edges got burned, either when I was loading or just from age. The film was a little fogged. You could even read the backing paper numbers on the film. Not caused by light, by the way. Generally, that's considered to be caused by a chemical reaction between the paper and the film. Sometimes it happens over years, sometimes it's faster. Kodak dealt with this a few years back, which is how I heard about it. You never know what to expect with expired film, which is why I needed her to see this for herself. These numbers, this fogging, hopefully it was all enough to convince her that she doesn't need to go down that path. She needs to avoid expirationitis.
You know I've wanted more. I know you're the ones with the answers. I have to know if Ferrania P30 and 120 is real.
It's real, and it doesn't disappoint.
P30 and 120 was a big rumor before the pandemic of 20. Unfortunately, the pandemic put that off. Until this year.
Oh, well, that'll be a cool effect. Ouch.
You've probably noticed too, it's like she becomes a different person when she's being photographed. I swear she looks different. I swear it's got nothing to do with me. Or being sick for a week or anything like that. That's crazy talk. I know I was being dangerous when I was doing this. Such a high contrast scene with a high contrast film, they warn you not to do it, but I did it anyway. I had the flash turned up high, using a snoot with a grid on the end for a harsh spotlight effect. I wanted something different. I wanted her to be silhouetted against a wall of light, but with a spot of light on her. Perhaps if I'd thought of chiaroscuro, it might have helped me with these. But that's all in hindsight. And I wanted her to be part of the shadows. I wanted her emerging, almost like she's at home in them. But also, she could be leaving the shadows for the light. Just look at the composition, from the dark into the sun. Looking back, but in a way, victorious over the dark. Look at that detail. There's almost no grain even developed in Rodinal, which is known for making sharp and chunky grain. I wanted to push my shadow detail beyond comprehension, at least for this film. I wanted to see what I could get. She was dressed in black, and she was in darkness, except for the backlight, except for the light on her face. I had to go as far as I could. You might say I could be wasting photos, but this is all learning. This is how you know if it works or not. You've got to try. You've got to go out there, and you've got to give it a chance. If you didn't push it, you wouldn't know what it could do. And look what it can do. A lot, if you ask me. I wish I'd been able to shoot with soft focus with every shot on this shoot. Just something special about it, the way the light dances around it. But the focus holds, the way it cuts through the darkness, and you can still somehow make out the form. The way you see her strength penetrating the darkness. Ferrania's had a lot of hard times, but they're enduring, and they're pressing through with some amazing results. Hopefully, Miss NIkonita can do the same.
Thank you so much, Detective. I left Old Man Portra. Me and Ferrania are going to be happy together forever.
Old Man Portra isn't even going to pay me for this one, but NIkonita got me in a place like when you shoot a roll of expired 400 NC and it's still nice looking because someone kept it in the fridge. I knew she needed to see the world in a different way. I just couldn't cage that bird. Even so, it's a dangerous world out there. You got people throwing film hot takes out like candy, trying to start drama despite the fragile state of the industry. The people who already forgot the lessons of the early digital years. The people who just chase the next trend. But I'll be there. I've got my trusty Hasselblad holstered and ready to go. Iris, case closed. We'll have to pay you in processing again.